looking at the picture, we have three levels of distance. The rocks, I guess I'll call them, are at three different levels, which is very interesting. And there's a nice aerial perspective between these three, so we'll have to be very subtle and careful about the values that we use. There's also really nice sky, nice clouds, and the whole picture has this feeling of limited um, limited colors. So, can you tell me what colors you see? What are the colors that you see in this picture?
Well, I see the rock as being different values of like a grayish, dark grayish purple to me is what it looks like. And the sky more bluish, maybe like a cerulean blue or a,
Yeah, there's definitely a blue. There's definitely a violet, right?
yeah,
And there's that color which is it's sort of a pink orange, or maybe something along those lines, right? So it's
in the rocks, in the
in the
strata.
in the rocks and the sand and the sky. If you look at the clouds,
Oh yeah, okay,
you got
yes,
that's the same color sort of in all of these things, right? So we need to figure out what that color is and how to recreate it. So let's spend a bit of time looking at that. I think that would be a useful exercise and will help us to achieve a better picture if we can figure it out together. Let me just take this out of the way and just put a little piece of paper here, and let's try different colors. There's definitely a pink in there, so there's a bit of red in this picture in this color. So I'm gonna take some
like a pink pink, like a scarlet
yeah,
color.
alizarin crimson is what I'm thinking. A bit of alizarin crimson, and then maybe some cadmium yellow with it, just a touch. Let's see if that
I don't
achieves.
have the
Sorry.
I don't have the crimson.
The alizarin. You'll have some other rose color, whatever rose colors that you have, but I think this is sort of where I feel it is. It's just a bit of yellow with it. It's not really cadmium orange or anything like that. It has to be a mixture, I think, and this is the kind of mixture that I see. If we use that, I think it's going to be much nicer than just the color from a tube, because this is subtle, and we need a bit of subtlety in there with that picture. So if that's the color, and we use a bit of
Are you
ultramarine.
are you
Sorry.
showing your mixes or
Yeah, I don't think you're seeing it. Here it is.
find it helpful anyways?
So that's the color that I'm seeing, and then
Oh, okay.
what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some ultramarine blue to that and see. Yeah, I can get a nice violet if I add a bit of ultramarine, and obviously if I add more color, I'll get a deeper violet with that, right? Using ultramarine blue and the alizarin crimson together. You can use any of the plum reds would work for this
Yeah, I've
picture.
got Quentin Rose, so I could
Yeah,
use that.
quinacridone rose is perfect for that as well. So just be light on the quinacridone rose. Add a very light amount of yellow to it. That should give you sort of a pinkish orange, kind of a salmon color, is what I'm looking
Yeah,
for. And once we have that salmon and the violet and the blue, I think we'll be off to the races. Um, and we'll use that combination with the blue to get the sky really interesting as well. Okay, let me just move things around so I can see what I'm doing. Um, I need to move this picture to the other screen. this back here. Okay, I can close this and that, and that. Okay, here we are. So we know what colors we want to use, and now we can go ahead and start working on it that way.
So just the three colors, you said, right?
Yeah, basically, I'm always interested in limited colors, because the more you limit your colors, the more interesting your painting becomes, more tight it actually works. So looking at the photograph, I see the line, the middle, the sort of the horizon line is a bit over 1/3, but I don't like it there, because it's going to give me a lot of space down here of sand, which is useless. I'm not interested in that. So I'm going to move it down to about 1/4, 1/4. And that's going to be my horizon line there. And I'm just going to use a straight edge to get that perfectly aligned with the paper. And just do it.
Do it a quarter, you said?
Yes, at 1/4, yeah.
I'm going to turn my volume up so
Yeah, almost 1/4, maybe a bit over 1/4, but gives you an interesting level. And then we don't have a lot of room down here for sand, which is really good, because we don't want half the picture to be blank. So there's the water. There's a gradation here happening, obviously from the blue to the sand color, which is that pink mixture, salmon mixture. And then up here, we've got, coming down to about here is where the first rock is, and it has a couple of edges to it. So there's another edge out this way, and turns up and then out. Okay, obviously this is much smaller than the other piece there. There's going to be a lot of texture in this, so it's okay that it's that big. The second one is really tiny compared to this, and it starts about here and just goes like that, and down to about here, I would say, and then turns in. And then the last one starts here and is a slope. I'm not going to do the slope as flat as it is. It's not a good thing. And then just give this a feel like that. Okay, so there it is. That's essentially the drawing. I mean, there's not much other than that. We're not going to draw the clouds in there. We'll leave those alone and come back and paint them. It's better that way. A couple of lines here. I just want to make sure that when I'm doing the textures that I'm taking into effect the overall line. So I'm going to assume there's a vanishing point over here where the lake, where the rock ends. I'm going to use those for my lines that I may put into the rock. I may or may not put them, but I want to at least have them available to me.
I'm sorry, could you point out where you think the vanishing, where you put your vanishing point?
Right here.
Oh, right where it joins the
Yeah.
horizon. Gotcha.
Yeah, just that point there. I mean, there's no specific one in the photograph. I can't see anything that is a vanishing point per se in the photograph, but I'm just thinking this would be an interesting place to do that. Because we need some perspective, especially on this rock right here. We need some perspective. It's pretty big, so we need to see some of that. Okay, something like that. Okay, and then we've got the veins coming down and different rocks and sort. Okay. I'll wait for you to finish drawing and then we'll begin. Okay, just looking at everything, I think what I want to do is I want to take a bit of that pink in a very diluted form. I just added a lot of water here, and just come back and do a quick wash of that over everything here, over the whole sky. And hopefully that will give me a more interesting look to the sky. We'll see. Make sure you have a nice bead. And you build it up like this. It's warming up the sky, which is good because I didn't like the fact that it was that cold before. This definitely warms it up. I shouldn't have been stubborn about using other blues. Cerulean would have been a better choice instead of ultramarine blue, but ultramarine blue is very versatile, and I sort of wanted to limit my palette, so I went with ultramarine blue instead. Cerulean would have been a more interesting color for this, but it's okay. So letting this dry a bit more, so it's all together, and then we'll get back into it. I made this mixture. Basically, it's ultramarine blue, that alizarin crimson, and a touch of yellow, just to make it warm. And then I'm going to go ahead and paint this rock in the back with a very light mixture like this. Okay. While it's drying, let me just make sure that it's done well. And then we take out the excess like that. Okay, while it's drying, I'm going to do the big one because the big one is separate from it. So for the big one, I actually don't want any blue in it at the beginning. So the first layer is just that pink that I'm going to use. Very light, actually, but still It's just that pink, okay? So this brush is actually working very well as a wash brush. Can't believe it. Most of this won't show, but it's important for it to be there. So let's just put it there and make it uniform, at least in a way, and just let it dry. So we got 2 layers that are already made, and then we need this middle layer. This is not made by any means. This is just the first layer of it. There's another layer that goes over, but one and a half basically. Maybe I'll add some of that red over here as well, just a bit. I might do that, yes. Just a bit like this. And now I can again let this all dry and proceed to the next layer. To be fair, I have not tried this method before, so it may or may not work. Well, that's part of experimenting and finding out if things work or not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a layer of violet over this pink here on the small one, and then pull it back with a palette knife, barely touching the palette. I mean, I'm not really pressing into the thing. I'm just pulling it back like that. I may crease in a bit as well to create lines if I don't see them, but I want to layer and then pull and allow some of that color to remain in there. So I need to get some of that color set. So looking at it right here, I think this is pretty good. Yeah, I think it is. I think that'll be just fine. So I'm going to take this as it is here and reduce a bit how much there is, and then come here and just layer it in over that. I'm actually going to need a bit more. It's not separated enough from the one before it, so I need a bit more blue in there and a bit more pink. So I'm just going to add the ultramarine blue in here, and then just a touch of that pink. Too much, more blue. Yeah, let's go with that. I think that's a better. Yeah, see, now that separates it well from the one that's already there. It has a nice separation now. Okay, so the thing is, because we put some pink in there at the beginning and let it dry, if we now move this while it's wet, the pink will stay because it's already there. So let's go ahead and try and see what happens. I'll start up here. Yeah, not much is happening. I might actually start creasing. So use that line and crease in just a bit, and make sure they're lines. I am going to create a bit of interest down here with this, like that, with a palette knife, and also a few negative lines like that. So at least it gives the rock some texture, right? It gives this rock a bit of texture. And it's a good experiment for what we need to do here. So we definitely have to go much darker here if we want the same effect. So we'll go ahead and do that, and create more of that color. So again, go back to the ultramarine blue, pick up a lot of it now because we need it, and I need it to be pretty dark. I need this area to look pretty dark. So ultramarine blue and that pink. Gives me a nice violet. I know you can't see the colors very well in the camera. I'm sorry about that. It's just the way it catches the light and the colors. But anyway, here it is. This is the mixture that I want to use, and I'm going to go ahead and begin up here and add it, and definitely much darker, which is really good. That's essentially what I wanted. Is separation is much more important than anything else. Value is all. It's all about value. There's a saying in art: value does all the work, color gets all the credit. It really is the value that makes a painting work or not work. Color is nice, but you can paint this whole painting in green if you had to, and it would really still look nice if you had the right values to it. So all the way down here, we remove the rest, put this away, and let's go to the knife again. Begin up here, just a flat approach, and again, let's go with the marks. Okay, let's see how this goes. There are a few lines this way also that I needed to adjust for. Okay. Can't do this everywhere, but at least down here is not a bad idea. So just layering the darks here, I think works. I'm going to do one more layer. I think it would really be nice for both of these to have one more layer. I might put another layer of blue on this one so that it becomes darker, right? Everything becomes darker. It's much more dramatic that way. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's make it more dramatic. I think it would be really nice to do it that way. I'm going to start again over here, and obviously more dilute than the others, but a bit stronger than I did it before. And let's go ahead and do it. Let's add it in. So it's going to be almost the same as the second layer, right? This one here in terms of value, which is good because then we need to push everything forward. So there. And this one, I really don't want to put any texture in. It's too far away for textures. So it should be just fine the way it is. We'll move on to this one. And for this one, I'm just going to actually put away this brush and use the bigger one. And let's get more water first, because I'm running out of water here. Let's get more water and then more color as well. So we'll pick up ultramarine blue. A bit more. And some of that pink. More. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and do this one here now. Okay, interesting things happening also. These grooves that I made, the cuts that I made are becoming more prominent because I'm adding another layer over. So these cuts into the paper are actually taking more effect, which is a good thing. This is going to be fun. Let's see what happens. Okay, so this is much darker, and it's getting to the dark, almost to the dark that I see in that rock. So I'm happy with that. I'm happy with the value change here. I think we needed that, and it's working. So a bit more down here. Okay. And you see how the pink is coming through on this? You'll see it a bit better when it dries. But the pink is coming through, and it actually is a very nice effect when it does that. The ultramarine blue is giving it texture. The colors are bouncing off of each other very nicely. Yeah, it's pretty nice. Let me see if I can do something really quick here. No, it's not going to be worth it. I was thinking of creating some highlight. Just a bit, maybe. Okay, not bad. Okay. We still have the water to work on, and to create a nice feel to it. It needs to go from blue to pink, so we need to make gradation, a gradient move basically in that. So I'm going to add a lot of water to my blue, the same blue that I used up here for the rock, but adding more water and diluting it in the tray here like this. Pretty diluted now, very diluted. Okay, like this. And I'm going to go ahead and use that for my water, for the first line at least. So the first line I'm just doing a straight violet like that. Maybe another one like this. And feeding it really well, making sure there's a nice bead here so that it doesn't transition too fast. I'm going to pick up some of that pink and mix it with my blue, and then come in here and add it to the bead. So I'm really touching the bead, I'm not touching the paper. Again, more of that red, and add it to the bead, and start seeing the transition to that color and the sand below. And now I'm just going to take that pink from there and just spread it like this. So there's a nice transition that happened, and we'll just let that dry. We may want to go back in, we'll see, but we'll let that dry for a minute and before. Okay, and take a look at the general overall thing in a minute. I would like to, maybe not this one here, I'd like to cut into this a bit. Just to create a bit of a joint here. Okay, that's as much as it's going to get, it's okay. Definitely see a bit of movement here, which is very interesting. I might want to do it over here again. I may lift to do that. But just that feeling that, you know, there's a highlight on this rock over here. It looks really good. Okay. This middle rock we didn't touch yet, so let's go ahead and work on that. And a bit more color. It's really all about the values. It's all about capturing the right values so that you can get that feeling of transition and movement. Without the right values, you won't get that. It'll look flat. You need to feel distance. You need to create distance. Now I'm going to use a small tool, a small brush that I make, this little thing here, to create some waves in the water. So it's a little brush. It is made for making lines, and makes them so well, really. So we'll start from back here and create a few. And it'll also help us gauge how much value we have in there. I need a bit more. Nice thing about this brush is it's you lay the bristles down on the paper, the hairs down on the paper, and you drag them, and so it creates a nice feel like this. You can also use the tip if you want, just the tip. You don't have to use the whole thing. We don't need a big blob. I need it to remain very subtle like this. The lines should be very subtle. And let's take them across now. Some are a bit more showy than others. They all dry more or less the same value once they're done. Okay, this is drying. It has definitely a different value than the one in the back there, but not as dark. So I don't know. I might leave it where it is. It separates enough, and maybe it's turned so it's getting a bit more light. We'll accept it as it is for now. I just want to do a couple of lines here as well. And there was this area here that I wanted to test if I could lift a bit on it. There's a line there, and I'm thinking if I do that, then I need to be after the line right there. I need to do some highlight like this, just a bit. That's good enough, and that just allows me to feel that there's a bit of a turn in the rock. You see that? There's just a little turn and a transition to it like that. Okay, just this one as well, just to make it separate, right? So it feels more interesting. There's a bit more here. Yeah, and there. This was too much. I'll soften it and go away. Just soften one edge, it will fit in. If you have both edges as hard edges, it won't work very well. This is okay now. I mean, I could soften it a bit more on this side as well, and make it look a bit softer as opposed to a hard cut. That's good. This is a good rock. This one here could use a bit of help. Let's see. Do we lift or do we add? I think we add first and then we lift. So let's go ahead and add a bit of color still to it. And I want to be careful as I do that I don't make it as dark as this one, because then that becomes a problem. So let's just do a quick wash over like that. It looks okay to me. Again, we wait for it to dry, and then we'll see if it works. But I think this is pretty good, and we can do some more lines down here with this brush now, and use the tip of the brush, and I'm using my hand on the table. That way I don't dig in to the paper when I'm doing this. I have more control because of that. So just a few of these like this, close to the rock, creating a sense of shadow to the rock itself. And obviously I need to anchor this, so I'm just going to make sure that this area down here is pretty dark. Actually, I want this to be dark here, really dark, like this. Okay, that anchors the rock and gives me some mystery in this corner and this edge, which is important. And overall, just a few more lines like this are always helpful. Okay. Voila. We'll let this dry and then come back and take a look. So still adjusting. I like this color. I'm okay with this one. This, I feel we can definitely make it a bit darker. So I'm going to go ahead and darken whatever I have here, and try to get it really deep and rich, so that it creates a bit more mystery than it is right now. So more ultramarine blue adding here, lots of it. And I'm going to pick up there's some crimson in here. A bit more. That turned into violet. Let me just pick up more blue. Here we go. Okay, so that's a bit better. And then I don't know if I want to add any yellow in here. I think I'm okay with it the way it is. No, I'll add one touch of yellow, just to be consistent. Just a little touch of yellow. There we go. It's all in here, and this feels much richer than the color that we were using before. So let's go ahead and do a quick wash over here. And I'm trying as much as possible to be very gentle with my brush so that I don't disturb the layers underneath. I like what I saw before. It's just, it wasn't dark enough. So that's all I'm trying to do, is make it darker. I don't want to change the way it looks, although it might change anyway. I might not have a choice in that. But at least I'm going to try not to disturb it too much by making sure that I'm touching the bead and I'm not really agitating the colors that already dried on the paper. That's the key really to a nice wash, is don't agitate what's underneath. Try to just work with the stuff that you're adding. In this case, I don't mind having a bit more because I want to go off the page with this. So I'm going to go down to here, and then I'm just going to take it off the page like that with a few darks in here, like this. And using the tip of my brush, even though it's a big brush, the tip is still sharp enough that it can give me good lines like this. Okay, just going to leave this to dry and see if I need anything more. I might need a few highlights, which I will do with a very little brush that I was working with before. I might, do a bit of highlights and lift. But for now, I just want this to dry in place the way it is right now and see what happens. So this paper here is not the highest quality paper. So when I scored the paper itself, it created, it separated, so I could touch the paper like this and lift some of the stuff that was there. But more importantly now, what I want to do is come in and do a few highlights using my little brush, this one right here. Just doing a line over what I see as a, there. So just, you see that, right? It's just a little highlight like this. Almost imperceptible. But definitely there, and there's value to it in the sense that it creates more interest and more separation, more texture for the rock. Need to catch these lines. This sort of, there was a highlight here that disappeared. I'm trying to recapture it without really recreating the whole thing. Why not? Why am I not creating the whole thing? It was good. Let's do that. Just looking. Those. Almost like that. And a bit more there. So it doesn't feel like it's a cut. Just opens up a bit more. Let's open it up a bit higher. There we go. I think that's nice now. Every time we do this, it feels like there's a curve and then another curve in there. This one curves this way, a bit more over here. Let's just give it a bit of a highlight there as well, like that. And some transition here. There, nice. I like it. I like seeing a bit of differences. Yeah. Okay. Once I'm done with that, I might go ahead and put cut in some highlights with the palette knife, with an X-Acto knife in a bit. But first, let's make sure that we dry this completely, so it doesn't you know, hurt the paper when we use the cutter. The last thing that I want to do is to use my X-Acto knife to create a bit of highlights on this rock. And really what I want is I want to separate these two rocks from each other. So by using a bit of highlight on the edge of this rock here and really coming back and delineating this rock in a way, making it more visible. Like this. There was another one here, so we can cut into that as well. And this way. I think it went all the way down. And a bit of highlight at the edge where it meets the water. That would feel nice as well. Let's make it more like this. It'll look better once I remove the things, and just a couple more hard highlights here and there. Okay, so once I'm done with that, I can just do it with my hand like this, but more, it's better if you actually use a kneaded eraser, because there's a bit of dust that settles in the grooves, and if you use the kneaded eraser to lift them, it just takes out all the dust that settles in there and leaves you the white of the paper, which is much nicer. Okay, like that. Okay. I think I'm done with this. I think if anything, I'll add a bird or something and make it settle. Now, once I'm done here, I will go back and use my bone to press all the fibers back into the paper. Always make sure you do that. You should be careful not to make it shine, but you need to do that so that the fibers, once they settle back into the paper, they're safe. They don't accumulate pollutants into the paper and destroy it over time. So just like that, make sure everything is flat or flattened. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes, I am. Okay, there it is. That's the look. Up here, do I want to touch this, or just let it be? I'll let it be. Just, it's done. I don't want to do anymore. There's a lot more that I could do. I could do another wash for the sky. I could make it more dramatic, but I like where it is. I like where it is right now, and we'll just leave it there. I think that's good enough for today. So if the white in here is too harsh, just rub your finger over it, and it will take some of the color that's on the paper and just bring it into the grooves and make it a bit less prominent like this. It'll be just fine if you do that. Okay. Again, make sure that you press the paper back in so that it's all smooth, and it'll be good.